Good morning, everyone. Today is the 9th day of Adar, and we are going to learn the famous chapter 32. Why is it famous? Oh, you know this famous chapter 32? Leiv, Lamed Bais. Lamed Bais is the 32nd chapter, and we take those two letters, you put them together, it's Leiv, heart, the heart of the Tanya. So the Alter Rebbe gave us this detailed layers and levels and different types of advice and means and ways to overcome depression and sadness, and to figure out tactics and maneuvers of how to fight the Yetzer Hara. In today's lesson, when one realizes that it's not the physical body that is of utmost importance, that we usually put our body, our physical needs as primary, or rather it's the spirit, one can easily achieve the love for their fellow Jews. So Leiv, obviously it's not a coincidence. Leiv talks about, Lamed Bais talks about love. So we talked about the neshama being in exile and doing all we can to return our soul to its rightful place next to Hashem. And such a return will bring one great joy, the joy of freedom. The joy of freedom, the knowledge that the body and the animal soul remain in their unfortunate state, should not disturb one's joy on account of his divine soul, for the soul should be infinitely more precious in one's eyes. So we act on the advice mentioned above to view one's body with scorn and contempt, and to find joy in the joy of the soul alone, which means your soul is a portion of Hashem, and you want your soul to connect with its essence. And that's what should bring you really, that's what should bring a person great joy versus an ice cream, right? Or a candy, or whatever it might be for an adult. Listen to this, Chavra. If a person wants to stay away from depression and sadness and frustration that we discussed previously, and he wants to bask in the glory of Hashem, what's a good piece of advice, Steve, that somebody who is struggling, having a bad day? Larry, think of someone else. Think of helping someone else, and usually your tzaras that you're worried about, again, if it's a huge burden and it's impossible to get rid of, you got to address it, of course. But if you're struggling, you're just having a bad day, call a friend, especially someone you know is struggling mightily, whether, God forbid, if it's health or children or something of that sort. You call them to offer them comfort and offer them help, and suddenly your problems. Remember when we were kids, there was a guy who would come over all the time. His name was Larry Keegan, and he was paralyzed from his neck down. So he had his guys, drive him in the van and take care of him, and they'd feed him. Imagine, he couldn't move his arms or legs, just his mouth, his eyes. He spoke. He was very intelligent, very wonderful person. But we would feed him the wine for Kiddush and the matzah on Pesach, and his workers would feed him the meal or whatever. Whenever he would leave, my father would always say, "Do you think you got problems? You don't have any problems. It's nothing. Oh, about my head, I hurt my wrist, I hurt my ankle, I have money, blah, blah, blah." You would get, when you see this guy and his positive outlook in life, and he would travel all over in his van, and he had very high-profile friends. He grew up with Bob Dylan and some of those chavra. But in any event, so when you think about somebody else, so what you do is, Alter Rebbe was telling you, love your fellow as you love yourself. Every single Jew, from greatest to smallest. Are you the smallest? Nah. So when you strip away the outer layers, when this guy comes along and he says, I'm a very important person, and this guy says, I'm not as important, but I'm also very important. Everybody has their status in life. But if you strip that all away, and it's just the essence of who he is, which is what? The soul, then we're all the exact same. We're all a portion of Hashem. So how then can one claim that his soul is superior to his fellows? He can't. We're all equal. Furthermore, we're all equal, and not only that, the only difference is we're physically separated, but we all have one Father in heaven, and that's our source. And within the source, we're one entity. And that's what we said yesterday, that we're trying to, our soul, we should be doing tshuva every single day of our lives, which means that our soul wants to return to its rightful place next to Hashem. It doesn't mean after we pass away. Even now, the more we do things that Hashem wants us to do, the closer we get our souls to godliness, to where they came from. Only our bodies are separate and distinct. We all have different features. We all have different thought processes. We all have different wants and needs, right? So this explains how it's possible to demand that one love his fellow as he loves himself. Self-love is natural to a person. Love for a fellow is not. And when we're talking about self-love, we have to understand what kind of love are we talking about here? Oh, I love myself and therefore I'll give myself whatever I want. No, we're talking about loving the essence, which is the soul, which is a part of Hashem. So if we're focusing on what's truly important, which is the neshama and serving Hashem, then we're all equal. There's no differences. So now we're going to try to figure out how to love the other person according to the principle stated here. One Jew need not create a love for another. Love is an inborn characteristic of his soul on account of it being part of Hashem. So it is as natural as the love between two brothers. The Alter Rebbe just explains, we're really all one. We have one Father in heaven. Only our physical bodies separate us. For a person makes his external physical body the primary and his soul secondary, then he's always going to be worrying about his physical needs, and then there's going to be a lot of differences and disagreements, and it's going to be very tough to love the person in a holistic manner. But if his soul is primary and his body is secondary, then he will be able to love the other person because we're really the same. No. Okay. Where are we here? Okay, up to now, the Alter Rebbe has discussed the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael, loving one's fellow Jew on its own merit. He now proceeds to discuss the value of this mitzvah as the basis for all the commandments, and thereby elucidating it further the importance of rejoicing with the soul, rejoicing with the joy of the soul alone. If you truly have the way Avos Yisrael if you treat Avos Yisrael properly, and you love the essence, which is the neshama, which is Hashem, and then you're going to do everything that Hashem wants because you're loving the soul, and you're loving your soul, and you're loving the other person's soul, you're loving every single soul because you want the souls to unite and get closer to Hashem, and in doing so, you want to fulfill every single mitzvah. If you want to get close to Hashem, that's the way to do it, by learning Torah and fulfilling what the Torah says. And so therefore, this is what Hillel Zaken, this is what Hillel the Elder says, that this mitzvah of loving your fellow the way you love yourself, not he's a nice guy, he treats me well, we're good buddies, if I'm friends with him, maybe I'm more popular, and there's all these other excuses. Not based on that, but based on the true sense of the word, loving the essence of the person, not the external factors. That is the whole Torah, as Hillel said, and everything else is explanation. So even if there's a little, well, what about this? What about that? That's just explanation on the core mitzvah of loving the essence, which is the neshama, and that's really loving Hashem because the soul is Hashem. So remember we said in the first page, before we even began the Tanya, the first page says, this is very near to you that you could do it. It's on your mouth and it's on your heart. You could do it. What are we talking about? Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. So if we're trying to love Hashem, and that's the whole thrust here, that's what we're trying to accomplish. So you don't have to look too far, just right inside of you, you have a piece of Hashem. You have a portion of God Himself, which is the soul. Right, Chaim? So that soul and the other person's soul is really Hashem. There's nothing that separates them. The physical body is getting in the way at times because we live in this physical reality. So if we love each other, which is meaning we love the essence, the essence of the person, which is Hashem, that's exactly what the whole point is. All these chapters, 32 till we got to this point, with all the different explanations in between, just connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through loving the essence. Again, it's not saying love yourself. Yeah, love the other person the way you love yourself, which is you're loving your essence, your neshama, the Hashem inside of you. And it goes with you wherever you go, right? You said v'sharish kol ha'Torah. I'm just backing up for a second. Oh, so what does the pasuk say in Vayikra? It says, "Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha." Love your fellow as yourself. You're loving the Hashem inside of you, and you're loving the other person's Hashem inside of him. It's really the same God. It's really the same thing. It's all one. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. It's all one thing. So you really, when it talks about loving the other and loving the other like you love yourself, and then everything else is explanations, because really it's trying to show that you should really love Hashem, and that's really the essence of who you are, the portion of Hashem which is inside of you, the chelik elikah. You said v'shorish kol ha'Torah hu lagbiya ala leis hanefesh ala guf ma'ila ma'ila ad ikar v'shorish l'chol almin. The basis and root purpose of the entire Torah is to elevate and exalt the soul above the physical body to Hashem, the source and root of all the worlds. So, and also that fits in with what the Rambam says, like take care of your body because it's your tool to be able to perform the mitzvahs. What? Excellent. Now do the next one. No? Or do the first one again. And also to draw down the light of Hashem, who b'knesses Yisrael. Where are we drawing the light down? Who? Where are we drawing the light down to? We're drawing the infinite light of Hashem into the community of Israel. Knesses Yisrael, into every single yid. That bringing the light of Hashem so that one Hashem will reside within Israel, that they are all one, united. But this is not doable if there is infighting, if there is strife and disunity between people. That Hashem does not dwell in an imperfect, fragmented place where people don't get along and people don't come together in a united fashion. We say in our prayers, bless us, Hashem, all as one with the light of your countenance. As we explain later on at great length. So again, the takeaway for today is there is no difference between you and your friend. You were both, and if he's not your friend yet, you and another Jew. You were both created by Hashem and given divine souls. All the differences are external only. Pay attention to the truth. You could love your fellow as you love yourself. And as Hillel Zaken says, this is the whole Torah. Because if you're loving your friend the way you love yourself, the right way, the correct way is loving your essence, which is Hashem, and everything is one, united as one. And then you'll fulfill the mandate, the mitzvah to love Hashem, and everything else is explanation. Everything else in the entire world and the entire Torah is explanation to that mitzvah, which is really all part of one thing. All right, have a good day. Shana, say goodbye.
Bye.
And we'll see you tomorrow.